This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm very excited to be speaking with Moses Ingram about Lady in the Lake. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Cleo Johnson is a pretty incredible role. Can you tell me what you first knew about this project and the part?
Um, I didn't know anything actually. It was all a really big surprise. And then when I initially read it, all I read was the first episode, but I was like hooked from the first episode. I was like, I don't know. I just like understood it immediately and was just enraptured. And so, yeah, that was all it took for me.
You have a great fellow, ensemble members, but you also are sort of in your own sort of storyline, not interacting as much, even though it's a lot of you and Natalie leading the show. What is it like to be co-stars in that sense, but really not have much screen time together?
Well, so when I first got there, maybe like my second week or so, Alma has showed me a sizzle reel of everything that they had already shot, which was all Natalie's coverage, save the scenes that she and I would do together. And I remember watching that and being like, oh my God, that is Natalie Portman. You gonna put me beside Natalie Portman? That's crazy, you know? But yeah, sort of knowing that, I mean, you want to do your best work anyway, but when you're working next to such a titan, you don't want your side of the screen time to be a dud. So
You tell me about this era and just getting to film in that sort of those costumes and the sets and everything like that.
yeah, it's gorgeous, JC Molina and Shiona Turini created, fabulous tactile worlds that sort of just allow you to fall down the rabbit hole of where you're supposed to be and makes it so much easier for you to lean in. And um, yeah, it was just really beautiful to get to do.
I want to flag a spoiler warning for anyone who just watched the first episode and didn't keep going.
Uh,
Want to talk about the last two episodes. The sixth episode in particular is just so much of like a long hallucination that when we get to that
uh-huh.
final moment that it almost doesn't feel real. That Cleo says, I this isn't a dream, it's really me. It felt for a second like why should we trust that? But ending it's like, okay, pretty intense. Do you remember reading that and how much did you know about what was coming after?
Yeah, I actually it's been so long now. I don't know if I remember my initial reactions reading it, but I do remember, different clips that I saw and experienced that I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is wild. We are on a trip." And then I, remember shooting sort of being up in the ring above the water and sort of how vibrant it all was and how different. I think that's such a cool element that Alma added in that sort of, it's an artistic touch to it, I feel.
Well, for a show that's relatively violent and deals with sexism and racism and lots of other things, the
Yeah.
final episode has a very playful element to it, especially, when Cleo's walking around with the wig and the mustache, and it feels like a sort of comedic heist. Did that feel very different than the rest of the series when you were filming it?
Well, when we were shooting it, I feel like the stakes were still really high. Um, but on set itself, it was just really fun to walk around as Jimmy. We named him Jimmy. That was really fun. Um, but yeah, yeah.
Well, how did it hold up getting to film scenes with Natalie after that memorable sizzle reel moment?
It did not disappoint. She's, a consummate professional and, someone I've watched for many years, you know what I mean? And so to be across from her was really surreal and another time to, sit up and do the work. You do that anyway. You do that with anybody you're working with, but it's just super special to work with people that, you've watched for many, many years.
How do you think audiences responded to the show? Did it surprise you at all?
I don't know. It's really hard to say because you involve yourself to a certain extent and then you remove yourself some. It seemed like the reviews were really mixed. But I mean, I feel like anything that sort of gets you talking and involved, has done its job. in one way or another. Yeah.
Well, you seem to have a particular niche when it comes to television, these limited series where, even if they're really good, there's not really a chance they're going to continue because they're such contained storylines. Do you feel
Yeah.
like you keep trying to go for those, or would you like to go for a more long running kind of thing where you get to dig into a character over multiple seasons?
Yeah, it's been really curated. From the beginning I've just been really afraid of locking into a contract that's really long. When I was in school, people would graduate and they would get into a series and then there would be so much that they had to say no to because they were in this series. And I remember being in school being like, I want the opportunity to go and try and do as many things as I want. And limited series are the perfect opportunity for that because you make an episodic feast, you get the stability of a long form job, but it's really like a really long movie in most cases. And then, you're not forced to return to it. You can go dive into something else. I think that's been the most satisfying thing for the creative in me.
I like that answer because I feel like I've heard from some, people who are doing these prestige cable dramas. They're like, well, now I want to do a network comedy because the scheduling is better. I can spend more time with my family. So I appreciate that you're looking out for, what you want to do and it's going to be enriching, but also to make sure you have a sort of balance and get to try a lot of new things.
Yeah, and I feel like the certain projects give you the opportunity to be able to do the projects that you want to do, the little indie somewhere that is, just special. I like things that are special, things that are for me. And sometimes, that's, not the flashiest thing.
Queen's Gambit has a great legacy, especially as like a show of the early pandemic that a lot of people were home to watch and really got very much into. And I know you did a lot in terms of playing a character who aged a lot over the course of the show. How do
Yeah.
you reflect back on that role?
It was a very sweet beginning, It was the start of me being in the business and being away. And I still remember my first day on set because that was my first day on set and pulling up into downtown Toronto where we started and seeing, period buses and cars and, watching them stop whole streets was like, whoa, I think I've done it. I've done it. It just was a really beautiful catalyst to, this.
I feel like Obi-Wan Kenobi takes things to a whole new level just in terms of the Star Wars popularity. Like, I don't think you can really beat that in terms of visibility.
Yeah, no. And that, interestingly enough, like that experience, it made me want to hide, if I'm being completely transparent, you know. It's taken me, I'm sort of just now at a point where I like feel like I can like talk to people like in a real way, like sort of like I don't know, but how real are you talking to anybody anytime that you don't know? But yeah, I had to readjust. But I'm glad that everything that happened with that is something that happened so early, because I intend to do this for a really long time. And, it's a lesson. It's like you can't listen to all the good and not hear everything. And so all of it has to mean a healthy amount of nothing. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, I was at the Toronto International Film Festival and I had a chance to see this interesting film called The End, which is not a limited series, but it is a musical and a very, I had a chance to talk to Joshua and to Michael recently and just such an interesting film. And I'm curious what attracted you to that part in that film.
Yeah. I remember getting it the first time I was in Telluride and it came into my inbox and I was there with my agent and I was like, they want me to read for this? Like, no, you're actually the only person that they are picturing right now for it. And I was like, that's crazy when I read it because I couldn't see myself in it at all. I just was like, there were things that definitely attracted me to it in reading it. The innocence of girl. And the script changed a lot over the time because I think that was like 2020, maybe 2021. Um, and then there was a period of time where it's like, maybe I'm not the person for it. Man, I don't know if my body is the right vehicle for this girl. Um, but a lot of talking and a lot of, hammering things out, I guess, if you will. Um, but it also was an opportunity to do something that I hadn't done. And I think the thing that I'm most after is being an artist that has had you know, the opportunity to try and be different and, find where I fit, what I like, what I don't like.
I appreciate the intentionality that you have behind the, role that you select. Do you have certain things that you know you want to do or know that you want to try, or things that you know you aren't interested in that, that's for someone else, but it's not necessarily your thing?
Yeah. I think I would like to do some more stories that sort of are I think a lot of the work I've done has been niche, each of them in their own ways. And I think that's great. You make fans one at a time. The same person who saw me in Queen's Gambit is probably not the same person who saw me in Star Wars. Is probably not the same person who saw, I don't know, like All Dirt Roads. You know what I mean? Um, I think I want to make something that I know my family truly wants to see and experience. I don't know. I feel like that's a bad thing to say. Um, you know, I I they'll see me in anything, obviously, because they love me, but you know, yeah. I don't know.
Do you have anything coming up that you can talk about?
Um, I did just finish a film that is super, super top secret, but I think Catherine Bigelow is dope. So shout out to her.
This is award buzz, so I'm always curious when I'm talking to people. Is there anything you've seen lately, a film, a show, a performance that's really sticking with you as one of your favorites?
Hmm. I One of my favorites. I saw Danielle Deadweiler in the piano lesson. I'd love to watch her. I think she's fantastic. And so I'm really hoping that, this is um in there when it comes time to be in there. Um, and Ingenue Ellis, it doesn't matter what she does. Like it doesn't matter what she does. She is just such a and there's so much more to her. And I really admire her artistry. And when I think of her work, it's the kind of work that I want to do. It's the kind of work that makes you feel. I saw her in Nickel Boys, and every time I see her on screen, I'm like, oh, please come back. I'm still trying to see her in Exhibiting Forgiveness. I haven't been able to catch a screening yet, but I hear she's amazing in that. And I'm just always rooting for her because I love her. So, yeah.
Definitely check out Exhibiting Forgiveness. It's really great.
Did you see it? Of course you saw it.
I saw it at Sundance, I think. It's hard to figure out when these films are coming out because you see them, all these things, and then
Exactly.
eventually they
I'm
make
gonna
it.
ask
But that one
somebody. I'm gonna ask somebody. Andre's really great too. Maybe I'll
always.
text and be like, "Why can't I see this movie?"
There you go. That's the
Yeah.
best choice. Well, thank you so much for your thoughtful answers today, and I look forward to seeing what you do next.
Thank you so much.